The F1 in School STEM Challenge is an extracurricular international competition designed to give students the experience of working within a project team. School teams are tasked with designing, developing, and prototyping a miniature F1 car following the same processes undertaken by industry professionals. Students draw on their learning from schools and insights from industry contacts to develop all aspects of design, advertising, marketing, and entrepreneurship. In this vodcast, teachers from Balga Senior High School give an overview of how they implemented the STEM Connections project in their school.
And so the program has been running at our school for about 7 or 8 years. Trish has been involved with it for most of that time because she's quite interested in motorsport. So that was her sort of background. She's an actual ethnic aide. As you've seen our students, we've got a lot of them that are English as a second language. And Trish sort of was motivated by the F1 and also about her position in our school. So that's where she came along. Then the next person to come along was me, and I sort of came in. I don't really like cars at all. And so I've come from that background where I wasn't really that interested in car racing. I was a science teacher, understood about the internal combustion engines and all of that sort of stuff and aerodynamics and things. But I came in as a bit of a manager. And then I'm just going to hand you to Mike. Mike came in then just after me, about a year later. And Mike's role is?
Well, I've done just a lot of IT teaching in the school. My main role is the school's teacher librarian, so obviously technology and the library and information service go hand in hand. And I just saw how the project was going and thought I could contribute to it, so I've talked to Rosemary and Trish about joining on. That was at the end of 2012, and look, it's been great because we made the national finals in 2013 and 14, so yeah, it's been good. Yep.
So basically in our school we've got Mike that's sort of doing IT. Mike also has an English second language background as well, and he also has a library background. So and myself, it's science, maths and some work studies, and for Trish, as I mentioned before, she's the rev head, and so she sort of keeps us motivated that way.
Balga Senior High School is a small school of about 500 students, and in that 500 students not even 50% were born in Australia. So over half of the school's population is culturally and linguistically diverse students and non-English speaking background students. Within that 50% or so of students from overseas, we're represented by about 38 countries. Many of the students that come to us come with limited or no formal schooling at all. And so when they come to school, the first time they ever go to school is at our school. When you're 14 or 15 years old and you've only had very limited schooling, you can imagine that the challenges that are put in front of you, not only for them, but for us as well.
This is how we've been running the STEM project at our school over the last couple of years, so even before this came on board here. We've been looking at doing the Formula One's in Schools Technology Challenge, and so you've seen a little bit of footage from that. We run this as a whole year program. The finals for our state are at the end of November. And then, of course, the nationals then go into the next year. So we're just continuously running this program. And what we did this year was we tried to do our Term 2 focus for ACARA. So we really sort of looked in depth and wrote a program up that we knew things that we would be doing in Term 2, and we saw what we could map. We have 3 one-hour lessons per week. We've got one on a Thursday and then a double session on a Friday, which has lunch as an interruption, but that allows us to be able to get out and do things with the kids without disturbing the other classes. We have 3 collaborating teachers, and we are there in each period. Like the 3 periods we teach together, so one teacher might take the lead, others might be helping, or we might take small groups each. And we try to keep an integration of aspects, with the lead teacher being the one that might have the strength in a particular area, and other teachers then helping to facilitate, especially with the language of the kids. It can be a bit of a problem.
But what our focus was, and where we link in with STEM and ACARA, was acknowledging the fact that in years gone by, we ran the project as the project, the F1 project. We didn't really focus in on the STEM aspects perhaps as much as we should have. So we've come at it this year with a renewed focus of really embedding the science, technology, engineering, and maths outcomes as outlined in the ACARA, in the national curriculum, with a renewed focus of really making it clear how it's mapped to the Australian curriculum. as you can see, we've looked at the 4 areas: science, maths, technology, and work studies there as well. And Rosemary has been great at teaching the scientific concepts behind the F1 project. I know yesterday at Plumpton that was talked about as well in your presentation, about teaching the science behind F1, and Rosemary's done a really good job at that so far this year.
Then when I started teaching and I was talking about like velocity and all of the different, the physics terminology, we really found that we had half of the class that had a low level of literacy. And so we had to look at some approaches about how to change that and how to help those kids. With the maths, we looked at a bit of a project, and with the maths we said, right, okay, well, what mathematics do we need to be able to facilitate the kids for what they do in F1? So wherever we're at, we're trying to integrate that maths in, and that's just mapped in that way. So we've probably started off with the physics and the inquiry model, which is the design, make, appraise model that comes from design and technology, and tried to link in mathematics. And with the work studies as well, we found that was quite easy, because a lot of the kids, they have to do all of the marketing research, they have to talk about industry sponsors, they need to make links. And because they're already doing that, we were able to develop the work studies profile.
And you know that the big picture at Balga Senior High School is that our principal is a huge advocate of project-based learning. And for us, that's great. Jeff has put aside time in the timetable, 1 hour on Thursday, 2 hours on Friday, for basically the entire lower school to drop everything and work on a project. And our project is one of those many projects going on. So we've got a cycling project going on, a gardening project, a music enterprise project, etc., based on a business model of education where the students are charged with the responsibility of conceptualizing a product, designing a product, making the product, marketing the product, and ultimately delivering the product.
The project that we took for this one term was we had a look at a group assessment task, and although each of the kids were marked individually, they were also marked as a group. And what we found, because we had some kids that had better English than others, we actually mixed it up a little bit so that we could get the kids with the more proficient English matched up with the kids with the limited English. And we actually saw their improvements in them being able to talk to us, to each other, and also to the whole class. And they actually did a presentation in front of one of our sponsors that popped in one day. And, like just in 10 weeks, they made huge gains. With all of the aspects, the students were able to just collaborate, and when we needed to do something, then they asked how to do that, and then I might have given a lesson, or might have given a lesson on, like, this is how you do this, saw it up the front, they might have asked again, then they started to ask each other. So they were already starting to work as collaboratives within themselves, and they saw that the teachers were collaborating, so that actually helps the students. And we looked at the students' strengths.
Yep. When it comes to dealing with industry, we put the kids involved in the F1 project at the forefront. We make them drive everything. I pulled the kids into my office with their broken English, and I make them get on the phone and actually make them call the sponsors, or get in touch with the universities, or get in touch with the mentors from UWA or Curtin University. We've got a really good setup where we've got good corporate support. Wild West Hyundai are on board. We've employed the services of second and third year engineering students from the universities who come out and help our kids with SolidWorks, the CAD software that we use. And they sort of act as guides and mentors for the kids to help with the design of the car.
And just with Wild West Hyundai, who is our industry partner as well as one of our major sponsors, we don't just have that link with them in our school. They also have a link in our school where we send kids to work experience to various parts of Wild West Hyundai, which is just about 5-6 kilometres to the north of where we are. And we've had kids go there, and they've also given our school a car so that we can, one of the teachers actually teaches the kids to drive as well. So they've supplied us with a car. So this has been a bigger link than just the F1 project with this industry. We basically, as you saw, the final product is racing. The cars. So what we had a look at is we got those little toy cars, the Matchbox cars, and we said to kids, well, which ones do you think is going to be the fastest, and how are you going to make a track, how are you going to make a fair test, how are you going to, so they weren't actually designing the actual cars, they were looking at those and trying to choose different factors that they thought were going to make cars go faster. And so from that, they sort of had a look at being able to draw up tables, do some graphs, look at dependent, independent variables, have a look at forces of motion, velocity and aerodynamics. And in the technology and engineering, they started looking at, okay, well, these are kind of the best cars. They look like this. We're going to start designing our cars. They'd started to do a sketch, and then they started to use a computer program called SolidWorks, where they were actually doing their 3D modelling of their car in that.
The kids did enjoy it. They did. They enjoyed the teamwork aspect of it. They, I think, did relish the change from the standard maths, English, science, English, standalone lessons, and they enjoyed the collaborative aspect of it. So, yeah, we learn more from teammates. Yes, it does help me in my normal classes because we do more experiments and activities in groups, which gives me more understanding of what we are doing in F1 and also my normal class. I think it was beneficial that me, Rosemary, and Trish all got to work together at the same time. We learned a lot from the kids as well, so it was good to work in conjunction with them. They have a fuller understanding now of STEM and how the F1 project is underpinned by STEM. It's increased their engagement and their interest, and the engagement in the STEM project has been enhanced by their industry collaboration.
And I think both teachers and the students have learnt about how to approach industry and start getting those collaborations over the last couple of years.